What are the 6 things you can do to enjoy your homeschool mom life more? If we haven't met, I'm Teresa Wiedrick. I'm the certified life coach, homeschool mentor, and graduated homeschool mom who supports other homeschool moms to shed what's not working so they can show up in their homeschools and their lives with more joy, more authentically, more confidently, more purposefully, and with more joy. 'Tis the season that the energy, the verve, the joy of the homeschool year, the first waves of excitement about homeschooling are declining. Can I hear an amen? It's typically in this season, October, November, before the holidays, that we start to lose our verve. That's why I thought, why don't we talk about a few things that might actually help you have more joy in your homeschool life. This week on the Homeschool Mama Self-Care Podcast, I had a conversation with Li from Little by Little Homeschool, and both of us have homeschooled for many years, and we've never met before, and yet we had a conversation about the things that we wish we had done differently, and honoring and recognizing the things that we did right, and recognizing the things that really mattered. And we never met before, and they were very, very similar. It was so fun to chat with her, first of all. It's always fun. I love chatting with people, can you tell? I love connecting and learning from other people, but discovering that our stories, though opposite sides of the continent, we've never met, we have some definite similarities. And so I thought some of the things I would bring to you today about the things that I can see would probably bring you more joy or help you enjoy your homeschool more. And so let's just start by saying that on this Friday, I have an upcoming webinar available. If you want to access it, it's all about bringing more intention to your homeschool, to go from that overwhelmed space that's pretty common at this time of the year to an on-purpose energy. So if you want to join me, ask me for the link. Okay, so let's get to these 6 different things that you can do to bring more joy to your homeschool. So first thing is to understand your core values. We can go our whole lives busy, busy, busy on the hamster wheel of momhood, or especially homeschool momhood, and not identify what really matters to us. But if you want to enjoy what you're doing, you need to take a step back and say, okay, what really matters to me? Because I can't do everything. I can't do everything with joy if I haven't clarified what really matters, and am I really hitting the things that matter most. So I think that principle of assessing both, your personal values, your family values, and your educational values helps you get clear on why you're doing literally every activity in your life. If it matters to you that the floor gets washed once a week, then you'll do it. And if it doesn't, then it doesn't. And you'll be fine either way. But we have to align our practical values, the ones that are deeply held, with our practical activities. They need to align. You might ask yourself, what do you want your kids to learn? What really matters for your child's education? What kind of environment do you want to create? So there was one mom here, Amanda, you had shared that you want to make your daughter, who is just beginning homeschooling this fall, you want her to know for sure her self-esteem and her self-worth are always at the forefront. So that's a value declaration. That's something that you want for her. So that's your goal. That's one of your core values. How can you make that happen in your day-to-day? There's a variety of conversations around those points about enabling somebody's self-esteem or self-worth. And really, there's books, there's entire institutes based on this. But I know at first glance that one of the most important things that we can do is to listen to our child so that when they speak, they are heard. And when they feel heard, then they feel like they matter. So that might be one action that you can take that aligns with your values. Or you can regularly assess, am I really listening to her? Because if I listen to her, she'll feel like she matters. Her self-esteem, her self-worth will be at the forefront. They will be strong. So write down your values. keep them visible. That means you might pin them to your mirror in the mornings, or maybe you have them like me, popping up on a phone reminder every day. Just a reminder of what you value, because it reminds you, is my value aligning with my activities? So the first thing you can do is understand your core values if you want to enjoy your homeschool more. The second thing you can do is to assess why you have perfectionistic tendencies. So ask yourself, why do I have this compelling that I need to do everything perfectly? So why do you? Do you know? Or maybe you're not actually one of those people that trends towards perfectionism, but I know that I've met you. I've met many of you, and I myself know you well because I am you. It's my tendency as well. My story is very much steeped in perfectionism, but I've learned that perfectionism is steeped in a deep sense of not being clear on your own worth, me not being clear on my own worth. And so when we're not clear on whether we're worthy or enough, then when we go into this homeschool mom role, we transfer our not enoughness onto all the things we could do that would be enough in our homeschool, or enough in how we're mothering and loving our kids. And we project it into that homeschool mom space. That perfectionism tendency was probably there before you began homeschooling. And as a mom, as a homeschool mom, you can always do more. You can, but no one can do everything on this earth. No one can do everything perfectly. No one. In fact, we don't relate to you if you're trying to. We relate to you more when you're being you, just being a regular old you. And that perfectionism is actually a barrier to connect with others, including your kids. So focusing on perfectionism, or focusing on doing everything right, or being perfect, or being enough, you won't hit it, and it won't make you feel good. So assess why you are leaning into perfectionism in the first place, and learn to set realistic goals, realistic expectations of yourself. How to do that? Join me in the webinar on Friday, and I'll talk about it. I'll do a much deeper dive than I am here. Okay, so the second thing that we can do is to get away from this perfectionistic tendency. But the third thing we can do is to build a supportive network. So there's two moms that recently I came in conversation with, and one is indirectly, you're here, Mary, you were sharing that this unschooled life has mostly worked beautifully for you, but sometimes it's a struggle with not being sure if it's just the right thing for your child. And being an only parent is a heavy mantle to carry. My heart goes out to you because your story is challenging, and yeah, my heart goes out to you. And so you're in an especially unique scenario of loss and grief, and then also not having that co-parent, that support that you that a lot of people have. Not everybody though, but a lot of people have. And I can understand why it feels impossible to have other people relate, because they just don't know how. Just because people just don't know how. They don't have the story. And though I have not had your story, and I know that everyone hasn't had the same stories. I've also heard other stories, like from Anne Catherine. Anne Catherine was someone that I worked with for a while. She said, I wanted in coaching to not feel alone in the journey, to have company, to have place to share my thoughts. It was helpful to have that time with you to process and reflect. I didn't feel so alone. Just knowing that you'd be there to support and listen to me once a month was extremely helpful. Thank you for all of your support. It's an honor for me to do that. I was just sharing this over on Instagram Live in the Homeschool Mom Chat, that there was one mom who wasn't even intentionally trying to be a support network for me, or at least I wasn't aware that she was. And she was a homeschool mom of 5 kids. She didn't see the world the same way I did. She didn't homeschool the same way I did. Her kids were definitely not like my kids. And yet, once a week, I connected with her because I was lending or borrowing books from her lending library. And I would just have casual conversations about, little things in homeschooling. And it just gave me reassurance when I didn't have that support network. That's one of the reasons why I offer the Confident Homeschool Mom Collective on Fridays. And that's also one of the most repetitively explained reasons why homeschool moms come to do coaching with me, because they want to engage with somebody who doesn't have skin in the game. They are able to have an objective experience of their homeschool family. They've been in their own homeschool family challenges. They know the depths of it. And they also have the skills to help direct someone out of the challenges. And it's an honor for me to do that in one-on-one coaching as well. So the third thing is to create a support network if you want to enjoy your homeschool more. The fourth thing is to incorporate or implement daily self-care practices. What does that mean to you when I say self-care? Because I know it's still, despite me having a podcast about self-care for homeschool moms, despite me having written a book, and despite me having dispelled the conversation point about self-care not being selfish, and also that self-care is not just manicures and pedicures, thank you very much, I still default to thinking that people think I'm talking about self-care as in manicures and pedicures. That's not what I'm talking about, although it could be if that's your thing. I'm talking about support, like recognizing that you are a human being outside of this homeschool mama role. You are a human being too. I know it doesn't feel like it some days, because if you have little kids, you might not have yet got out of those pajamas for a few weeks, few months, or the yoga pants. Frankly, I still have yoga pants. Even after I'm homeschooling, I still have yoga pants, and I'm not wearing them right now, but I could be some weeks. But getting out of the yoga pants, that might be your goal for self-care, is actually putting on fresh clothes, or having a shower, brushing your teeth every day, washing your face every day. Those things are tricky when kids are littler. They just are. But there's also some things that you might want to do that will make make you feel a whole different level of caring for yourself. So, of course, we could talk about mindfulness techniques, or journaling, or going for a walk, or but you know what I love about self-care discussions is actually asking you what really works for you. Like, what would actually help you feel like you're honoring yourself as a separate human being. And if you can't answer that question because you forget what you like doing, and it's been a really long time since you've asked that kind of a question because you don't have time to do it anyway, then I'll ask you, if you have a daughter or you have a son and you imagine them, let's assume the daughter, that she's grown up and she's having babies and she's in a busy phase of her life, and you sit down with her and you say to her, what is it you want for you right now? What do you need? How can I support you to get you what you need? What would you hope that she'd say? I have no idea. I forget what I need. I can't do anything for me, Mom. I don't have time for me. If you heard your daughter say that, you know what you would say? Okay, it's time to leave the house. I'm going to look after the kids. You go get a cup of coffee. I don't care what you do, but leave this house. I'm looking after the kids. You go do you. I know I would do that. I would do that for my daughter-in-law too, or whoever it is. But I would definitely do that. And I assume that you would too. I know you would do that too. And because I know you would do that too, you're honoring that child, grown child, as a human too. She's a human too with human needs, and she should honor herself and her needs. And I'm saying it to you too. You need to honor you as a human too. So what can you do that would actually help you take care of you? Because I want that for you. Now, that is the fourth thing that you can do to bring yourself more fun, joy, satisfaction in your homeschool. But the next thing you can do is to begin to set boundaries around your time. Let's just talk about your time right now. The activities that you're choosing. Nike gave us a great slogan back in the 80s, just say no. But it is really hard to say no as a homeschool mom who's always looking for the next cool learning opportunity for her child. And they are all amazing. And also, you only have so much time. We live in a container of time. There is only so much time. So how do you want to spend or use that time? You need to create boundaries around your time. That's why you want to go back to your values and ask yourself, what really matters. What do you really care about? Because those are the things you definitely want to incorporate in this container of time that you've been given. What are your current commitments? You could do a time audit, really writing every single thing down you do for an entire week. Though that sounds tedious, I've done it and it was profoundly helpful for me. I continuously utilize this tool in coaching to help people see how much time they actually have and how much time they think they have, and whether or not they can fit all the things into their days. Our culture is too busy and too productive and way too much on a hamster wheel, to the point of distraction. Like, we literally want to be distracted on social media so that we don't have to think for 5 minutes. But I think the goal is to delete a bunch of stuff that doesn't matter, create margins or space around the things that we're doing so that we can breathe, think 2 thoughts in a row, feel present, be mindful, experience solitude, have bandwidth for the things that happen in our homeschool mom lives that we weren't anticipating, which we both know will happen. We need to create space that we don't fill with activities. We need to do it to show our kids how to do it, and we need to do it for ourselves. We need to look after ourselves. So we need to look after ourselves by saying no to the things that don't matter. And the 6th and final thing that we can do to enjoy our homeschool mom lives more is to celebrate the small wins. Every Friday in the Confident Homeschool Mom Collective, I create a space to honor the small wins that each homeschool parent in that group is experiencing with their kids. I got to share mine this last week, and it revolved around baking. I am so glad that I got out of my kids' way to let them play in the kitchen and to learn how to cook, because now they're growing up and they know how to cook and they know how to feed me. So is that a small win? That might be a really, really big win, but it happened over the course of time, and beyond grateful for the delectable apple pie that 2 of my kids made. And then yesterday, one of my kids brought me a very tasty scone that could easily be sold in a cafe. So to me, definite small win. So that is something that I celebrate. But what could you celebrate around your kids' development, or how they're approaching things, or how they're engaging with their siblings, or the cool things that they're learning, or you creating time for you this week? Are there some small wins I can celebrate with you? If there are, I'd love to hear about them if you throw them in the comments below. And you're also welcome to join us in the Confident Homeschool Mom Collective every Friday, because on Fridays we celebrate small wins together. So those are the different ways that you could incorporate so that you can enjoy your homeschool a little bit more. If you want to join me this Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, I am offering a free webinar, and it's all about going deeper into this, moving from overwhelmed to on purpose. Because when you're intentional in your homeschool life, you are way more happy. Can I hear an amen? And if you're feeling especially stuck, or you're wanting to connect with me and maybe learn more about coaching, I would love for you to ask me, just say, I'd like to get a link and talk to you about this. It's no obligation, but you can have a one-on-one conversation with me to learn more about that. And lastly, even for a little bit more inspiration, I just want you to check out the most recent podcast episode, because we have conversation. Li from Little by Little Homeschool and I have a conversation this past week about the things that we learned in our homeschool lives, and how her and I have never met before, as I said before, and we've never met before, but we had some really common conversation points that were interesting to see overlap, the things that we learned that didn't work, the things that did work, and the things that we learned to let go of. I think it would be a really encouraging conversation if you want to listen to that. That's the Homeschool Mama Self-Care Podcast. You can find it over on Spotify and Apple and wherever you find podcast episodes. So thanks for joining me today in today's Coach's Corner. If you want me to answer any specific scenario, I'm happy to do that. I'll be back here 2:15 p.m. Pacific Standard Time every week on Facebook in the Homeschool Mama Support Group. I hope you have a really lovely week. We'll talk to you soon.